I am so excited to share today's recipe with you. We are making Norwegian Christmas cookies. Since I'm half Norwegian, it's only fitting that I share a traditional recipe from my heritage. These cookies are one of my all-time favorites. I usually make them for Christmas, but they're great all year round. I'm Christina from It Is a Keeper, and I share tried and true recipes that anyone can make, like these Norwegian Christmas cookies. They are light and crispy and have amazing flavor. So let me show you how to make them. Okay, so we pulled out the heavy hitter for today's recipe, these Norwegian Christmas cookies. I like to make them in a stand mixer because it's a thick dough and it just does the job a little bit easier than a hand mixer. So these are so simple, and you guys, you're gonna love them, trust me. So it starts with, most cookie recipes do, butter, lots of butter. So let's get that all in our mixer. This is room temperature, so it's going to incorporate nicely. And to our butter, we're going to add two types of sugars. We're going to add some white sugar and some brown sugar. And get that last little bit out of there. All right, now we're just going to turn the mixer on and get the butter and the sugars creamed together. It's going to come together into one nice homogeneous mixture. So make sure you put it on, hold it in place. Okay, so the mixture looks right. Let me tip this up and show you. It should look something like this. All comes together, light and fluffy, fully combined. Okay. So to this, we're going to start adding some wet ingredients. So I have an egg, and what I'm going to add is just the yolk, but I'm going to save the white. So I just crack them, and then I juggle the yolk from shell to shell, trying to get all that white to come off. And in she goes. And we'll save that because we're going to need that later. Then to this, I'm going to add some molasses. Now here's where the recipe varies from the traditional Norwegian recipe. I'm adding molasses, but that's only because at this point we would add dark Norwegian syrup. But in the United States, we don't have access to dark Norwegian syrup. So molasses is a nice substitute and it works just as well. But if you're in Norway and you can snag yourself some dark Norwegian syrup, it's worth it. Alrighty. Then to that, we are going to add some vanilla. Again, we're going to kind of diverge from the Norwegian recipe because they would add what they call vanilla sugar here. But again, we don't have that here, so I'm just substituting some vanilla extract. And I use the good stuff, not the imitation. I just feel like it adds better flavor. And it's Christmas, so we're being a little special. So just some vanilla. And then we're going to turn the mixer back on and get this fully combined. Okay, so we've got all our wet ingredients in. Now it's time to add the dry. So to this, we're going to add 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. Get that all in there. Baking soda, not powder, but baking soda. We don't want these cookies to have a lot of lift. And then some cinnamon. Can you tell like the flavor already? I can just tell by the ingredients, they're going to be amazing. And the amount of butter makes them extra amazing. So we're just going to get that all mixed up. It's going to be a stiff dough. So that's what we're looking for. It's not creamy because we didn't add a lot of liquid. So it's going to be a nice stiff dough, which is why I'm using this mixture. Let's let this do the heavy work for us. So I start slow so the flour doesn't go poof, and it still might, but start slow and then turn your speed up. Like that. All right, I'm just going to check this batter and it's looking about right. Nice and thick. It's come together, so I'm just going to get it all off the mixer. I'm getting in with my fingers. This is just what we're looking for. So our batter is perfect. I'm just going to clean up the space and then we'll move on to the next part of the recipe. Okay, so our dough is perfect. I'm just going to scrape it all out of the bowl onto the board here. Maybe. Told you, it's a stiff dough. Does what it wants to do. Don't leave any of that deliciousness behind. Okay, so then I'm just going to work this into a ball. Not too much. You don't want your hands to warm the butter up too much, but I just wanted to get it to where I can divide it. So I'm going to take this hunk of dough and I'm going to divide it into 6 portions. So I'll go half and then thirds, as evenly as possible. And then I'm just going to push them off to the side. So these cookies in Norwegian are called brunpinner, which translates to brown sticks, and you'll see why. So we're going to take each hunk of dough and roll it into like a rope. So we're gonna bring our cookie tray in at this point because we're gonna transfer this right to the cookie tray. So we'll put each rope onto the cookie tray. Get that rolled out. If it starts to separate, it's okay, just push it back together. Okay. So that looks about right. I like to use parchment paper for this too, because I feel like it'll keep it from sticking to the pan and it just makes it easier. Now, we're going to use the best tool in our kitchen, our hands. I want you to just take the heel of your palm and push it down. And the parchment paper will slide all over the place. Do your best to hold it, but just press it down. You want them about 1/4 of an inch thick. No need to use a rolling pin for this. Just get in there. Use your fingertips or your palm. I like the palm. I think it works easier. And then I like to kind of go through and just straighten up the edges if I can. It's not a problem. And we'll work on the second one. I like to only do 2 per tray. Okay, so these look about right. Let me just go through, straighten out my edges a little bit. Okay, set this aside and we'll finish up the other 4 balls. We're just going to roll them all out and press them into shapes just like we did. So next up, we need to prepare our topping. So I have that egg white that we reserved and I'm just going to whip it up a little bit just to break up any pieces that are in there that are holding it together. And then we are going to take some sliced almonds. And a lot of Norwegian recipes use almonds, but I love this one. I use the sliced ones because we need to mince these up real fine. So I'm just going to run my knife through and chop them up into a fine chop. So it's funny, the couple of times I've been in Norway, I would follow my aunt around in the kitchen as she's baking different things with a notebook, and I would write down the American equivalents of everything she was baking. She's a great baker and has so many amazing recipes. So I would literally follow Aunt Kirsten around with a notebook and remeasure everything she was doing so that when hers said, 200 grams, I knew that was like 2.5 cups. And I would Americanize all of the recipes so I could recreate them here at home. Some were great successes, others were not. I remember a distinct experience when I was pregnant and trying to make a kransekake. Did not work out well. I think I was traumatized because I never went back and tried it again. Okay, these almonds are looking perfect. I'm just going to scoop them right back into the bowl they came from. Okay, so we'll bring our dough back in. Now we're going to take those egg whites. This is going to serve 2 purposes. Number 1, it's going to be our glue. It's going to hold our toppings in place. And number 2, it's going to give the top this nice, shiny, almost darker brown color. So we'll just baste this on here, give everything a good coating. I'm telling you, my Aunt Kirsten is an amazing baker. She makes so many delicious things. Some of my favorites are the kransekage, which I told you about. So it's basically rings of like an almond paste batter that are graduated up and it forms like this tower. And then they're drizzled with this vanilla sugary frosting that you just kind of break off and eat it piece by piece. So good. She brought one over from Norway for my wedding. I don't know how she did it on the plane, but she had it in her carry-on, very carefully packaged. But then she also makes this amazing cinnamon braid called a kringle, and you might see it in Trader Joe's, something similar, not exact, but similar to Aunt Kirsten's kringle. But if you go into Trader Joe's, they call it a kringle. That's the Americanized word. But if you go in and say kringle, you'll kind of like blow their minds and they won't know what you're talking about. I speak from experience. But all amazing things. So Norwegian baking is fantastic. And any party you go to, they have tons of cakes and desserts, and it's amazing. Okay, so now I'm just sprinkling this crystallized sanding sugar. You could also use the sprinkles that are like the sugar crystals, the crystal sprinkles. Use them in all different festive colors if you want. I'm just using the white ones or the clear ones, whatever you want to call them. And then we're going to add our chopped almonds to the top. Can you see how amazing these are going to be already? God, they're so good. And you'll impress all your friends. You'll be like, oh, I made Norwegian Christmas cookies, because yeah. Okay. That's all. You would just repeat this with the other 4 pieces, and then you're going to pop them in the oven for about 10 to 13 minutes, and you'll see how they flatten out and just become perfect. Okay, so our cookies are done. They're out of the oven. You guys, these look perfect, and I wish you could smell them. They smell fantastic. So you gotta let them cool for about 2 to 3 minutes. I just let them cool on the tray. They start up puffy, but then they flatten out nice like this. And you see the almonds get nice and toasty. Now we're going to cut them into that brown stick shape. So I literally just take a knife and I cut them at a diagonal, maybe about a 1/2 inch thick, just like so. And I know the pan's hot, so I'm trying not to burn myself while I'm doing it. But you can see how the egg white has caused it to get nice and glossy in there. Now you don't want to wait too long to cut. It's a delicate balance between too soon and too long. If you cut them too soon, they can pull apart a little bit. If you wait too long, they set up too much and they're too crispy. So you really have to do like that 2 to 3 minute window. I'm just going through, slicing these at an angle and making them into the brun pinner, or brown sticks. All right. Now, those little end pieces that aren't really sticks, those are the best part. Those are for you, the cook. Don't share those. You're gonna want them for yourself. So now we're going to transfer these to a cooling rack and let them cool completely. And this is what you end up with. And I thought it was only apropos to serve these on my Norwegian grandmother's china from Norway. But this is what they turn out to be like. And they're crispy and they're a little chewy and they're just plain delicious. So I'm going in for a big old bite. Let me tell you, they go great with tea and even better with coffee. I feel like I'm in Norway looking at the fjords. You guys, I think Aunt Kirsten would be proud of this. I think I did her justice with these cookies. You need to try these. These Norwegian Christmas cookies are definitely a keeper. What's your favorite Christmas cookie? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want another one of my heritage-inspired Christmas cookies, make sure you check out my Italian ricotta cookies. After all, I'm half Italian and half Norwegian. Thanks for hanging out with me today. You can get the full printable recipe in the video description below. I'll see you next time. Farvel, or bye in Norwegian.